What if I told you, some of the biggest global conflicts in history didn't just happen, they were quietly shaped behind closed doors? What if the nation that often presented itself as a peacekeeper was actually helping light the fuse? From secret alliances, to economic manipulation, to drawing borders that would later explode into chaos, there's one empire that keeps appearing in the shadows. Before we dive into the main story, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell notification button for more interesting video like this. We're talking about Britain, the same power that ruled a quarter of the world, the same empire that claimed it was civilizing nations, may have been deeply involved in triggering conflicts that changed humanity forever. But here's the twist. Many of these actions were never officially admitted. Some were buried in diplomacy, others rewritten in history. So today, we're uncovering the uncomfortable truth. Was Britain really a stabilizing force, or a silent architect of global conflict? Let's go deeper. At its peak, the British Empire controlled territories across Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and beyond. But controlling land wasn't just about power, it was about strategy. Britain didn't just conquer, it rearranged. Borders were drawn with little regard for ethnic groups, cultures, or historical rivalries. In many cases, this created ticking time bombs. For example, in Africa, rival communities were forced into artificial nations. In the Middle East, colonial agreements ignored centuries-old divisions. These decisions didn't cause immediate wars, but they planted seeds of future conflict. The World War I is often described as a tragic chain reaction after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. But look closer. Britain had already been forming strategic alliances, including the Triple Entente with France and Russia. These alliances were meant to contain rising powers like Germany, but they also made war far more likely. When conflict broke out, Britain didn't hesitate, because war also meant protecting global trade routes, expanding influence, weakening competitors. Some historians argue Britain wasn't just reacting, it was prepared, and perhaps even expecting war. During World War I, Britain made promises to multiple sides. One of the most controversial examples is the Sykes-Picot Agreement. This secret deal between Britain and France divided the Middle East into spheres of influence, without consulting the people who actually lived there. At the same time, Britain made conflicting promises to Arab leaders, suggesting they would gain independence. The result? Decades of instability, conflict, and distrust in the region. Britain's expansion often meant competing with other European powers. This led to intense rivalries, especially in Africa during the scramble for Africa. One example is the Second Boer War, where Britain fought Dutch settlers in South Africa over control of resources. But beyond direct wars, Britain's colonial rule created economic exploitation, resistance movements, ethnic tensions. Many of today's conflicts trace their roots back to these colonial decisions. Britain didn't always use armies, it used economics. Through trade dominance and control of key resources, Britain could influence entire regions. In places like India under the British East India Company, economic policies reshaped societies, often leading to unrest and resistance. Economic control often destabilized local systems, created dependency, triggered rebellions. These tensions sometimes escalated into full-scale conflicts. Here's where things get complicated. Modern narratives often present Britain as a defender of democracy, a force against tyranny, a stabilizing global power. And while those roles did exist, they don't tell the full story. Because behind the scenes, strategic decisions sometimes prioritized power over peace. Short-term gains created long-term instability. Actions were often justified, but rarely questioned. So here's the question history doesn't always answer. Was Britain simply navigating a dangerous world, or was it quietly shaping it to its advantage, even if it meant conflict? And if the past was shaped this way, how much of today's global tension is still influenced by those hidden decisions? The deeper you look, the harder it becomes to separate peacekeeping from power building. If this made you question what you thought you knew about history, you're not alone. Because sometimes the biggest stories are the ones that were never fully told. For more videos like this, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.